Count money, man. Stack riches. Try and told him I'm a beast blood.
What's up, gang? Welcome back to another episode of the GRINDcast. Get ready. It's a new day, and we got this dynamic duo here. We got Bill Hutchinson in the house, fresh off his last victory. Seemed like that blew by, right? And then we got Jaryd Boyer, my longtime friend. Love seeing you guys partner up and do stuff together. And so we got a fight coming up where Hutch is the main event, Turf Wars 2. This upcoming next week, Saturday, July 12th at Highmark Stadium. Haven't seen anything done like that since I've been around, so super excited about it. Jaryd, you guys want to tell us a little bit more about what's getting ready to happen? Why Turf Wars? What's the vision?
Yeah, man. So it was 2023 that it actually started in church. I was in church, and I was doing a Thanksgiving turkey giveaway. So I was doing it for McClellan's Contracting and Roofing. And my vision for it was, American Gangster, Bumpy Johnson, frozen turkeys out the back of a truck. You know what I'm saying? Giving them away. So I was doing it. Boom, boom. We fed like 200 people. And the lady who runs the facility there came up to me, and she was like, aren't you into boxing? Can you do boxing events? And I was like, I know people who do that. I don't really think I could do an event by myself, but let me think about it. And then she just kept on asking me. She was like, can we do a boxing event in this place? And I'm like, beautiful place, this would be great, but I don't know who's going to draw people to fill this place up. So she kept on asking me, and I was like, man, what I could do is an amateur event that has like a purpose behind it that would be like the amateur boxing team in Pittsburgh, right? To give them a platform, to pour into them. That's what I got to give. That's what I could put together. So we talked about that, started planning that out for about 2 weeks. And then we met one time, and she was like, are you sure you don't know any professionals? Now, I had just got reconnected with Hutch, like maybe 2 months before that. He bought one of the shirts, Christian shirts, Save Not Soft, Jesus is King. And he just popped in my mind, man. I called him as soon as I got out of the meeting with her. And I said, yo, I got an opportunity, man. I don't know if you're looking to fight, or I don't even know what you're trying to do. You trying to fight and do something? He was like, man, that's crazy, because I just left a meeting, right? You had just left a meeting that he was trying to make a deal happen for a facility. And I was like, well, you got to come check this out. Montour Sportsplex, indoor turf. And I took him in there. Boom. He seen it, knew it was right. It was just like a divine connection, divine timing. And, I had the facility, and I was like, we're calling this thing Turf Wars because we want to have multi-venues. We want to have it in Highmark Stadium in the summer, and we want to come back and do it here. So that's how the whole thing got started. Brought Hutch in, and he just like, I can honestly say this. I showed him like what we had. I've never seen somebody run so hard, so fast in my life. This dude right here.
What do you mean by that?
Run with the vision.
Run with the vision.
I'm talking about he's seen this. He started in his mind, like, we need lighting, sound, the marketing. We got to get this out to the news, calling connections, promoting the fight, all while training for the fight.
Unbelievable.
I've never seen nothing like it. Yeah.
Not only can he box, he's great at it.
Yeah.
But now he can, on the side, he got this vision of a mind on how to set up everything like that. We were just talking about, Hutch not only has the skill set of boxing, but he's also an attorney.
Yeah.
And then also has black belt development.
Right.
Which we got to learn more about. So you talk about a jack of all trades. There's so many different things that you could do. I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So he ran with it. The first one was a success. The occupancy was
When was that?
That was March 1st.
March
1st, we threw it, and it all came together. I mean, we grinded it out the last week or two. Grinded that thing out, sold the tickets. Occupancy was $799. Let's just say we had $799 in the building.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yep. So right away.
Much as you could get in there.
Yeah, we packed them in there.
Yep.
So everybody had a great time.
At the legal limit.
Yep.
And no more.
Yep, I got you.
Everybody, the feedback was amazing. I mean, I don't think people knew what to expect. I think probably, I had the vision of how it was going to look and what it could be, and he had it. And I don't think really people knew what was coming.
Well, like you always say, we were originally selling an idea.
Yeah.
Now we have a product to sell, right? At first,
it was a vision.
Right, we're trying to sell people on what could be. And now that we pulled it off, we welcome the bandwagon jumpers. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no
but now
doubt.
everybody believes because we
Yeah.
did it. You know what I mean? Now it's not just some vision. It's not just some idea. It's a product that we can tangibly go back through the numbers. We can show sponsors. We can show the stadium. We can show the different venues. We can show the different fighters. The numbers, men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Yep.
So the reality was, everybody that was kind of on the fence about what we were capable of are now believers.
Yeah. Yep. No doubt. So the fights were great fights, world championship caliber boxing is what we were trying to do. Live entertainment, and then a purpose behind it, right? Because that's what I bring to it. Like, I can't do anything on
Without
any
a purpose.
Yeah, I can't do any. It's just who I am. I can't do anything on any platform without trying to bring something that's going to make an impact to it. So we didn't really get into that. We didn't really have time to really get into that for the first one. It was just so quick. But this one, we have a mission impact section where we're going to be giving back to 2 local nonprofits that are doing major work for the youth in the city. So one of them are Still City Impact, and the other one is 412 Ministries, doing great work in the city. And we want to be able, and I got my own youth thing, you know what I'm saying? But it ain't about me. I want to bring people in and give back to others,
Love it.
Well, and it's a great thing from our perspective. And one of the biggest things that, attracted me to this situation with Jaryd was you build a platform, you have this scenario, not only for myself as a fighter, but for these other young up and coming fighters, right? We have this platform, we have this voice. What do you do with it? Right? So Jaryd said, why don't you use this platform for something positive? We're investing in these young boxers' careers with this promotion.
For sure.
Why don't we invest in these young boxers and the crowd and the people that are watching us into their spiritual future and their purpose as well, right? Lead by example. All of our events are all ages. I
brought my son last time.
Yeah,
He loved it.
Did he?
Yeah,
he loved it.
100%.
Yeah.
I just had a call this morning with one of the talent that's going to be performing at the event, and he was like, I get it, no cursing, but you know what I mean? Like we're not playing around with that kind of stuff. We want it to be family friendly. We want it to be all ages. That is on purpose for a purpose.
Yeah, changing the stigma of like how people view boxing too.
Right.
Because it could be looked at negatively.
No doubt.
All the time people are like violence, but they don't talk about like boxing saved my life.
Right.
Kept me off the streets.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't
Right.
talk about perseverance, healthy habits, commitment, discipline. Right.
Coachability.
But we're trying to pull that
Humility.
out. Come on. Give me some more.
Right? All the things that you can get and grow
Yeah.
from sports
Yeah.
like that.
So we wanna pull that
people
out.
miss sometimes.
And I think that it's becoming more popular, which is a good thing, but it's becoming more popular to do good, to be Christian. People are speaking out about it and saying, hey, hold on a minute. This isn't just some little silent minority over here. Right? We're standing up for what we believe in.
Right.
We're standing up for what's right, and we're leading by example. And as that becomes more and more acceptable, it allows those who may be on the fence or thinking about giving it a try or thinking about going to their first church service or thinking about, giving their life to the Lord or whatever that looks like for you individually. Hey, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay for me to hear you out. Right? Maybe it's okay for me to navigate down that path and see if that's for me.
No
and
doubt.
that's really what this was about for me,
Yeah.
and why I was attracted to doing this with Jaryd was because I thought he was dead on. I thought that it was the right time in the right place, and like he said, it all the universe kind of came together on that for this series and for this event series to do that in our own way.
What's the card looking like?
It's fantastic.
How many we got? You got most of that dialed in already?
It's done. So we
Okay.
have 6 professional fights.
Okay.
Okay. We also
6 pro fights.
6 pro
All right.
fights. Okay. We have my fight, which is the main event. I'm fighting for the UBF All Americas title, which is going to lead us right into a world title in the fall. So we're super excited about that.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
got some young up and coming guys on the card. We got Sal DeSimone, who's an undefeated, young, hungry kid, really starting to put some things together. He's joined my team. He's working with Chris Williams and Ryan Flores. So he's really shown a ton of improvement. We got Tommy Parker, young, tough kid from the north side, bringing a nice crowd. Highmark Stadium is dang near in his backyard.
It's
so
right there.
It just makes a ton of sense. We got Paul Palumbo, undefeated guy, working with Tommy and Keller. We got Ed Lattimore making a comeback.
Ed Lattimore,
right?
Black Magic coming back, baby.
Motivational speaker, author. He's got a book coming out, and it's a great opportunity for him to literally walk out what he's talking in his book and show people what he's been working on. So we're super excited about that. And then we got a little surprise for you in an exhibition bout that the people are just not quite ready for, but stay tuned, and I think that you're going to be real excited about that.
Love it. Anything different, Hutch, about this camp versus last time, around, more work, less work?
I'm older. Everything hurts more. It is what it is, but we're grinding it out. You know what I mean? Like, it's funny. I go into these training sessions and coaches or other fighters are like, man, you still got it, man. It looks great. Better than you ever looked. La-di-da-di-da. I'm like, man, in here I'm hurting, dog.
Right.
But it is, I'm on the back nine of my career. That's just the reality of my situation. But I'm performing at the best I ever have right now, and we're gonna ride this thing out until I can't do it anymore.
Love it. So you're feeling good?
Sure.
Yeah. Good as you can.
Well, the thing is that I'm performing, right? So that's exciting.
Yep.
And my vision and my fight IQ is better than it's ever been. Things are slowing down. It's like, I can't miss right now. So I'm loving that. I'm hitting harder than I ever have. My technique's better than it's ever been. I just have to take my recovery a lot more seriously nowadays.
For sure.
And that's hard for me to swallow. I'm that guy that my whole career, I was the hardest worker in the room. Nobody, did more rounds than me. Nobody, went harder than me in strength and conditioning, so on and so forth. It's humbling for me now to sit back and watch some of these younger guys put in a little more work than me. Because my body, I don't want to leave it in the training room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's taken a while for me to come to terms with the fact that a rest day is okay for me right now.
Right.
And that's an uncomfortable feeling. It's an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, that takes discipline.
I've never done that before, but it's paying off. It's paying off. That last fight, it was probably the best performance I've had in a long time, maybe ever.
For sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I felt so good. And that was the first fight I've ever had where I went into that ring healthy. Ever. Yeah. I was almost uncomfortable how good I felt.
Got it dialed in.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's all back to that not just running my head through the wall, trying to be a little smarter about my training, trying to be a little smarter about my rest and recovery. And it's not easy for me, but I'm working on it.
So would you say that's the biggest mental aspect, leading up to your fights now? Is
Definitely.
More this battle you're talking about?
Definitely. It's putting myself in the best position on the night, right? If you're coming out to the fight to watch me perform, you don't really care how many days I trained. You don't really care if I did 3 a days. All you see is what you get, right? You're going to see me perform, and if I go out there and look great, you're not going to care about any of that other stuff. So I stopped kind of trying to be the gym hero and really just focusing my training on peaking on fight night and being healthy on fight night and making sure that everything I had was available when it counted.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. What's your perspective on some of that stuff?
Well, I was going to jump in, and then he said everything I was going to say about it. You know what I'm saying? Which was like just my observance from beginning of his career being around him in the amateurs. And when he first started, when he first turned pro, then he just had a few years ago fought Adrian Broner, went 12 rounds with Adrian Broner.
Yep.
Then he came back 2 years later, right? 2 years, fought this veteran, Corral, and for sure looked the best that he's ever looked. I mean, leading up to it though, the feeling, the vibe, the looseness. I've never seen him relaxed, flowing. And like he said, he was the healthiest he's ever been. So, I mean, he might say that he's older, but I mean, when I see him moving in the ring, he's so many steps ahead. You know what I'm saying? That he has to discipline himself. We call it the FU face in the gym. Sometimes he'll put that FU face off and then just go, trading shots.
Want to plow through it.
Yeah,
plow through it.
Right, but when he kicks in that IQ and that experience coming, he could take a step back, and he could for real pick people apart. So I've seen that grow in this training camp this time, and leading up to this in the last one.
You've been using, your love and passion, for boxing and helping people, mixing those two things for a while, since I've known you, which has been a long time. It blew by.
Yeah.
I don't know, 8-9 years.
Yeah. About 8 years, yep.
And, I've learned, I've watched you overcome some adversity. I know you had a bunch of adversity before I ever even met you. And we were talking a little bit about what people that don't understand, they look at a sport like boxing and they look at it as, it's just violent and it's, bad for maybe kids to be around or whatever, but miss out on all the positives,
right.
That it can bring. One of them being, mentally giving somebody an outlet and teaching you how to overcome losses and, handle adversity and stuff like that. What would be some ways or, what were some of the things that you've had to overcome, some adversities that you've overcome that maybe other people can benefit on? How did you overcome some of those adversities?
So, I mean, we could take it back and talk about like the physical adversities of growing up without, the best guidance, right? Or, family adversities. But I think the main adversity that if anybody listens to this, what they would get out of it would be the inner adversity. You know what I'm saying? It's the you versus you. You know what I'm saying? What I want to achieve. Do I want to, the adversity. So the adversity is you got your flesh and then your spirit, right? Or at war. And the Bible says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So if I want to go do things in my own flesh, things that I shouldn't be doing by the spirit, going out, partying, drinking, you know what I'm saying? You got to sacrifice and put that stuff down to be able to go where you want to go. If God gives you a vision, he gives everybody a purpose in life. But everybody has a choice. We all got a choice to make. Like many are called, few are chosen. And the reason the few are chosen is because they have to choose which way they're going to go. And that has been with my passion and my, I don't want to speak stubbornness over myself, but I can be stubborn, and I got a passion to do things.
Sometimes you got to be stubborn to win.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? What have been some things that you've had to like sacrifice, when you're talking about the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak?
Yeah. I mean, all the things that aren't good for you anyway. Like, if I want to be a leader, I can't be, and I mean, I don't want to anyways, but I can't be out in bars drinking and partying with people. You're not going to catch me there. I can't be running around with women, a bunch of different women all the time.
Yep.
Even before I was married. I can't be doing that.
Right.
Those are all things that aren't, if you're trying to get, like you're fighting and you have a diet, you can't be eating cake and ice cream 3 times a week. Those things aren't good for you.
Right.
So basically you sacrifice all the things that weren't meant for you to have anyway in the first place. That's what I think of.
What would you say, maybe one of your biggest adversities that you've gone through, Hutch, Jaryd, and how you overcame, what comes to mind, for you guys?
My first one would be like just keeping it 100 would be the one with my family. I had kids with a woman, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it was unevenly yoked, and we tried to make it work a long time, and it just didn't. So that was the hardest thing that I had to go through.
Ever.
Right? Yeah, you see your kids, you're with your kids every day, every night, and then they're not there for weeks. You know what I'm saying? So but that's where that's where I needed Jesus. That's where something good came into my life that changed my life forever.
Yep.
So adversity.
That's so like how? So how do you get through that? I'm a dad, you know what I mean? And I got 3 young kids, so I can imagine that feeling. Yeah. You know what I mean? And what that would be like. And then, just statistically, you look at the world and it's like if half the people on this got kids and are married, there's probably a good portion of those people that may have been in a similar situation. Statistically, that's what it says. You know what I mean? So, there's probably people out there that could benefit from like, how do you mentally get through that?
So it's accountability. It's like you have to make a choice, right? God's going to put people around you, right? Mentors, people come into your life. And what I did was like, I seen the world, I seen my situation, right? That was no good at all. But then there was people over here. There was a couple people who were telling me the truth, right? Somebody came and told me who Jesus was, right? He started pouring into me, and I was like, I can't do this no more, right? 33 years old, a lot of my kids are gone. Like, I can't go this way no more. I got to go this way. But I had to start making choices, my own choices. It wasn't like some magic thing that just was going to drop, everything was going to change and get better. I had to walk the narrow path of righteousness. There was a path I had to walk that the one way goes to destruction, one way leads to light and life. And I had to make intentional choices. That's at the end of the day what changed me. The choices that I made to do the right thing and not the wrong thing.
Any adversities, obstacles come to mind for you and how that maybe impacted your life?
Oh, to Jaryd's point, I think that we could go down a lot of different paths with that. I mean, we face adversity every single day, no doubt about it. Kind of piggybacking off what he said, though, I think that for me personally, there's still adversity in marriages that work too, right? We just happen to figure it out. We happen to get on the same page. We went to church, we prayed about it, we went down that path, if you will, of what does this look like if we do split up? Do we want to be together? Do we want to work on this, right? I've been with my wife for over 15 years. So as you can imagine, the man that I was then is very different than the man that's sitting here today.
No doubt.
So you either grow together or you grow apart. And you have to make that decision and make sure that your morals, your principles, your values are aligned. And if you have some disagreements, but those core things are aligned, you can make that work, right? In Jaryd's situation,
go back to the fundamentals,
right? Maybe those core things weren't there, and like he said, he was really going a different path as it related to following his walk with God and everything else. Luckily for me in my situation, both me and my wife wanted to walk that together, right? And so we were able to stay together and keep that household together for my son, right? So it's really important, and it's okay in a lot of ways to have those adversities, to have those conversations, to talk it out and make sure that you're on the same page with your significant other. And in a lot of ways, you might be happy that you did because you're on the same page to raise up that child together in the right way.
Right, no doubt.
That's good stuff.
Best decision you ever made comes to mind.
All right, so cliche, obviously, when I accepted Jesus, cliche. But I would say even more than that is the last.
But why? Like if I'm listening, I haven't really. I've heard people say stuff like that, but like why?
So when I received Jesus, right? So somebody came and told me who Jesus was, and nobody had ever told me that in my life. So when they did tell me that, my mind started thinking a different type of way, right? If God did this for you, right, and sent his son to die for you, somebody has to tell you that, right? So when somebody told me that, instantly my mind started thinking like, okay, all these things that I've been through in my life, right, brought me to this point, brought me to a point in time where I could go forward and use all that to help other people. So when I accepted that, I instantly started knowing didn't happen immediately, but instantly I knew that life wasn't about me no more. I wasn't living for myself. Growing up, surviving, you want to take, right? But in that moment, right, when Jesus, God gave, he's a giver. He gave his only son to die for us. So in that moment, I knew that my purpose wasn't going to be to take. It wasn't about just surviving for me and taking for my kids. It was to give back to other people. That is what changed. When Jesus came into my life, that's the main thing that changed, was to be a giver
instead
and not
of a taker.
Right? And there's nothing else that fuels me more than seeing God using me to impact somebody else's life. So I've had people who have all the money. They have all the money that they're ever going to want. They got a beautiful wife. They got amazing kids, a beautiful house. And they come to me and they're like, Jaryd, you're so blessed. And I'm like, I say, you blessed too, my brother. We all God's children. But like your faith, Jaryd, your faith is just, and I'm just like, I choose to believe. It's a choice, right? I'm telling you the same thing that somebody told me. Now, you either choose it and you take steps in faith and action step. Love is an action word, right? You got to take a step in faith and watch God move on your behalf. So that's what I would say. When I accepted Jesus, that giving became the overall theme instead of taking for what I wanted.
So if I said, give me two, right, of the best decisions you've ever made.
Yeah, the next one.
What would be the next one, or would those be the two? Accepting Jesus and then turning into a giver instead of just a taker?
No, the best decision that I made was the last door that God opened up for me. the 5-day event that I told you about just happened, right? The one before that, God gave my wife. That was the best decision. So the best decision was my last decision.
Yeah.
That God opened up for me, right? And
Understood.
then you ask me that in 2 months, I'll probably have another best decision that I made.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
How about you, Hutch?
Best decision I ever made was deciding with my wife to have my son, man. Everything I
Loving
do,
being a
you know,
dad?
I love it, dude.
Love it,
I
Hutch.
really love it because, you know, it's so funny. It's people tell you the moment he's born,
Yeah, right.
everything
Right,
changed.
right.
And you're just like, okay, buddy, yeah, I got it. Yeah, everything's going to change for sure. But it really does, and it did for me. Genuinely, I can't do anything. I'm literally sitting here right now thinking about how can I be a good example for my son?
Yeah.
Right? What can I say? What can I do? What can I work towards? How can I strive to be a good example for him so that one day he could look back and say, man, I'm proud of my dad. You know what I mean?
No doubt.
That's what I want to do now in life. No, everything I do, every decision I make is no longer about me. It's all about how I can provide, how I can be an example, and how I can set my son up for his future.
So where would you say you've grown in the most, you know, since maybe 10 years ago? You know, you talked about, hey, I've been with my wife 15 years. Obviously, I'm a different man today than I was 15 years ago. You know, what is the Hutch today versus, you know, 10 years ago?
I think the biggest thing for me is, and anybody that's ever known me or been around me in any way, shape, or form would probably tell you that I'm all in. And whatever I do, I'm all in.
100.
So if that's in a bad lane, probably not the best, right? The biggest thing for me, to answer your question, is the best decisions that I've made as I've grown is putting myself on that trajectory in a positive way, right? What I'm about to just dive into and go all out in is a positive thing. It's going to help me. It's going to help my family. It's for my future. You know, it's surrounded by good people or by faith.
So obviously you got to make that decision.
You got to make that
So if I say,
decision,
well, if somebody's listening out there and they want the same, you know, they catch themselves, they're in a period of their life right now where they're all in personality and they find themselves kind of going all in on obviously you got to make a decision, right? So you say, well, how? Well, I made the decision, right? But other than that, what other tips would you give somebody to kind of make that shift?
I think the biggest thing is for anybody out there listening is putting yourself around other people that are making good decisions, right? Because some people, like me in a younger life, didn't know maybe what the right decision was, right? I might have had good intentions and fallen into something that, you know, was rooted in maybe even not necessarily evil, but rooted in something negative, right? So being around people that are putting you in a position to be on a right track where, okay, he's not getting hammered in front of me. He's not, you know, going over there scamming people. He's not going over there overcharging people for this service, or he's not doing this and he's not doing that. Being around people that are solid, that are honest, that are transparent. And then when you have these kind of conversations and you're deciding or being encouraged into certain lanes in life, whether that be your work, whether that be your hobby, whatever that looks like, you're getting set up to dive into something positive.
Right. Amen. Do you believe, Jaryd, greatness, somebody that's great, do you think it's more something that they're born with or something that's built over time?
I think everybody's born with greatness in them. But here we go back again to like decision making, right? What you choose to do with that seed, you know, it's built, right? It doesn't just happen like magic. It has to be built for sure.
What about you, Hutch?
I think that that's a very interesting question, because I do think that there are certain individuals that are chosen for what we as humans or flesh would consider greatness, right? We all have purpose. Who defines what your purpose is better than his purpose, or your purpose is better than my purpose, right? We're all in this master plan that isn't ours, right? So to define what that is, I think as a human, we may look at somebody and say, oh, he's great and he's not. But really, who's judging that, right? So I think that in that way, Jaryd's right that we all have greatness in us. It might not be the greatness that we individually aspired for, but we maybe haven't realized yet what our true plan was or our true purpose was. You know, I can tell you right now that I've wanted to do a lot of things that I was very disappointed didn't work out for me. But I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't be where I'm at in life today had I got what I wanted.
Right.
So maybe
No
I
doubt,
don't know.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right?
No doubt.
So to if it answers your question, I know that was a long, windy road, but I think to answer your question, I agree that we all have greatness in us. We all have to work for it, but to be open to a plan that isn't our own.
No doubt. I think the two things that keeps, coming out of both of you is, having faith and then surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I look, same thing. You're like, man, there's things that I thought that I wanted that now that I look back on it, I'm glad I didn't get what I thought that I wanted, at the time. And so there's seasons of life, right? And when you're in a season, when you're in a winter season, at times it could feel like it's forever. But when you get out of that season, you see how much that you've grown, how much better off, that you are. If there was a button that you could have pushed in the middle of that season, like, hey, get me out of here. Maybe you would have chose to get me out of here,
Right.
not understanding that it was all developing you into exactly who you were supposed to be, that you wouldn't go back and change a thing because it made you the person, the woman, the man, the whatever. It develops you into who you're called to be, in this moment. And I think people that make it out of that to the other side, you got to have a little bit of grit. But I think it's really having that level of faith. If you could have that deep level of faith that it's going to work out for me on the other side. Everything that's happening for me. It's not happening to me. I just got to wait for those things to transpire, and then having the right amount of the right people around you. That just keeps coming up. Whether your son gets older, my daughter, your kids. It's like, man, the crowd that they are spending their time around, the people that we were influenced by. How much does that dictate your life as a young person? Even as you get older, the people that you choose to spend the majority of your time with probably dictates a lot of where you're going.
Well, and I think the crux of a lot of what you're saying there is really powerful in everything that we've talked about, whether it be religion, whether it be business, whether it be a fight, in the ring, out of the ring, is resilience. No doubt. As I get older, I see some of these guys, again, whether it's in religion or in business, that are successful, and you really get down to it, and you're like, man, this is just a resilient guy, man. He's been through it. He weathered the storm. He stuck around. He just kept fighting, whether mentally, physically, he's just resilient. And it, as I continue to grow in many different facets, I keep leveling up to new areas of my life where I'm like, that guy right there is just a resilient guy, and that's why he's here.
No doubt. Truth. Speaking of resilience, Premier, right? Premier Youth and Fitness Program. Is that the title of?
Premier Youth and Community Center.
Premier Youth and Community Center, 2015.
Started as Premier Fight Club.
Okay.
Yeah.
Started in 2015 as a nonprofit.
Yep.
Okay. And so you got 10 years now.
Yep. 10 years.
Most nonprofits don't make it 5 years, I think, are the statistics that I've read about. I've been a part of a few, myself.
Yeah.
And most nonprofits don't make it 5 years. I don't know the statistics. I would imagine we're a little bit less, 10 years. So surviving 10 years, you probably got to have a little bit of that perseverance and things that you've had to go through and grow through to get to this point. Can you elaborate a little bit on that journey, for somebody out there that thinks they want to go on that journey of what you've had to overcome to get to where you're at, and what things you're celebrating right now because you did?
Yeah, so I wouldn't advise jumping into a nonprofit as your first business venture. I would say that, Surround yourself with mentors. Praise God for you came into my life at a certain time, and you helped me out a lot, bro, believing in me and seeing what I had going, the vision that I had, and the potential that I had. So it didn't start off like that. It started off with a dream that I had in 2015, Premier Fight Club. Nonprofit's a grind, bro. A grind. Finding the right people to get together for a common cause, putting the right people in the right place with the right skill sets. Like, I was used to leadership on the street and corporate leadership, two different things, right? Leadership on the street, once you build your reputation, people just do stuff for you because they know what you're doing, and like, we're going to get the job done, right? I'd say, let's go do this. You just do it because Jaryd said, we're going to do this and it's going to work because it always works. But like when you get into nonprofit corporate leadership, you can't just tell people what to do. You got to lead by example. And I learned that. It took me a couple years to learn that.
Especially a nonprofit.
Yeah.
It's different if you're giving somebody, you know, like a board of people, they're volunteering their time. A lot of times you're dealing with volunteers. You're dealing with people that you have to, you know, talk into, so to speak, investing into the program, investing into the kids. It's different than when you're paying somebody a salary.
Yeah, completely
right. So when you're
different,
leading people that ain't getting paid, you're leading some folks that are, you know, on a board. That's where you got to serve with more of a vision.
Yeah.
You know,
They need
relationship.
Inspire. You got to inspire them.
Yep.
You got to be the main motivator. You got to be the main source of energy. You got to be able to explain the and all that. And I never had that. I always just told people like, yo, this is what we're doing. And we're going. So for me, it was a journey to figure out how to, you know, inspire people. I knew what I was doing was right and I was going to make an impact. But like, you know, you got to be able to explain that, put the vision out there,
Right.
Say this is what we're doing, the number of kids we're trying to impact. So,
How long you been around just boxing in general?
My whole life. My dad was a boxer. So we had boxing. We had bags, speed bags, weights in my gym since the time I can remember.
What traits would you say, you know, you've been around good boxers. What traits would you say stick out to you of some of the best?
One, I would think the ones who really get humility. I think that is
humility.
Humility. I think that would be number one. It just comes to mind.
Number one.
Number one. Humility. That's it. Because if you get humbled in the ring, and it's hard because fighters have egos, right? You just did a podcast
You gotta have
called
some
Ego, Evading Growth Opportunities.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. No doubt.
So if you have an ego and you got all this pride, like you think that you know everything, then you can't keep learning.
Right.
And if you're in
Right.
there getting hit in the head and in the face and you think you got it all together, you know what I'm saying? I don't even want, like, what can I tell you? I don't want to even
Turn
Right.
that FU face off. You said.
Yeah, I don't even want. I don't know what to do. You know,
Coachability. Humility,
but it's-
coachability.
Yeah, to understand.
That'd
like,
be
yo,
number one.
Yeah, to understand, and that boils into life too. Like to understand that you don't know it all, and if somebody's trying to give you something, you know, take it.
How about you, Hutch?
I think that's a good point. I think the biggest thing for me that I may not have given you the same answer years ago is the experience. You know, as I gain more experience and my fight IQ raises, I can be in that ring and I can be safe. I know where to go. I know how to be.
That's it.
You won't be able to put me into a position tactically where I'm compromised. You know what I mean? And so outthinking the situation, knowing when to attack, knowing when you're safe, knowing when you're not, and using that fight IQ to your ability as opposed to, you know, screw you, I hit you, you hit me, let's see who's the baddest guy. You know, and because that has a shelf life. That's short-sighted, for sure. Right? And it took me a long time to shut that off because I've felt that.
Go in and bang.
Yeah, like let's just go. Like that's how I came up. Like we talked about before. I ran the most miles. I put the most rounds in. I'm the toughest guy. Let's go prove it. That's short-lived. That's short-sighted. That's not the best way, but that's just my reality for a long time in my career.
Yep.
And so getting to a point where I'm like, I don't have to do this. It's okay to not get hit. You know, it's funny
it goes
to
back
say.
to what he's saying. That's humility.
Yeah, and it's funny to say that
killing
out
the ego.
loud.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny to say that out loud, but for almost my whole career, I didn't care. You know, you can't hurt. I had that attitude, like, you can't hurt me. I don't care. I'll take one to give one. Let's just go. Let's figure this out. And it's just a fact. Like I said, it's funny to say out loud, but it's truly how I felt in my heart. And, you know, to take a step back from that and to say, you know, it's okay to move around a little bit, not just go straight forward and do things like that. Use my skills that I've always had. I'm honing them. They're getting better. But to actually use my skills as opposed to just being a brute.
Main growth periods in your boxing journey specifically, would you say, you know, obviously it's more fun to learn from wins than losses because you can learn from your wins. Would you say you've learned more from your losses?
Absolutely. Because like I just said, that was probably like an ego death when you get to a certain point and that FU face don't work. You know, you get to a certain point and you're like, I couldn't just brute my way through this. You know, why was that so? I felt like I was stronger. I felt like I was tougher, but I didn't win, so it doesn't matter. You know, so getting to a point where you're like, okay, hold on a minute. I'm looking at this the wrong way. You know, I'm looking at this the wrong way. You know, if the goal is to win and the goal is to be better and the goal is to be the best and the goal is to achieve more, then I'm going to have to set my ego aside and do this a different way. So
we talked about mentorship. You know, even in boxing, it's an individual sport. Nobody steps out into the box, you know, really other than yourself, you know, people in your corner, but they step out, it's just you.
Yeah.
It's still a team sport more than people think, right? So you talked about mentorship, guidance. You know, one man came into your life, I think you said 31, 33 years old, you know, started to help you. Who would you say, or, you know, what person or thing comes to mind when you hear mentorship? Who stepped into your life and gave you some mentorship? What would be the biggest thing maybe you've learned from that person?
Yeah, it was a guy who he seen where I was. His name was Brother Dan, and a spiritual mentor, like a spiritual father to me. He would always tell me, and I didn't know what he was saying at the time. He would say these words. He would be like, Jaryd, it's bigger than this. And what he was talking about was the boxing gym. And he would just grind me with it. You know what I'm saying? He'd be like, it's bigger than this. And I'm just like on go, building this boxing gym, you know. And I'm building and I'm building and I'm building. He's like, it's bigger than this. What he meant was, you know, the kingdom of God, right? It's about getting people saved and bringing them to Jesus. Don't focus so much on the boxing. Focus on the people. And that was huge, man. That changed my heart around. And listening to your podcast, bro. Spending time with you. You've been a huge influence in my life. Those are the two things that stick out to me.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yep.
You the man. How about you, Hutch?
I think the biggest mentorship for me has been the entire team that I've surrounded myself with. Even if we want to just talk about the boxing team that I kind of have assembled and allowed to put together, and Jaryd's on that team as well. But, you know, with Chris Williams and Ryan Flora, and now Sal's on the team, and, you know, Shane's on the team, and, you know, everybody's a good dude.
Yeah, it's fun.
Everybody is a positive influence. There's no detractors.
Yeah.
Everybody on the team is there to help. Everybody on the, you know.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Hey, I got a fight coming up with this kind of style. Hey, boom, boom, boom. We're going to go like this. I'm going to stand like this for you. I'm going to, you know, everybody is selfless. Everybody just wants to help. There's no ego. Nobody's fighting over their camera time. Nobody's fighting over their rounds. Like, everybody's in there to get better, and everybody's in there to be better. You know, me and Jaryd talked about it on the last training camp and leading up to the last fight. We got a member of our team saved. You know, like that.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Talk about purpose.
You know,
impact.
I'll let him make that declaration himself.
Yeah.
But, you know, realistically, that's how, in my mind, that's how it's supposed to happen, right? Good influence, lead by example, good, positive team that's genuinely there for one another, and then you got someone making a decision like that. I mean, so cool.
Yeah, nothing like it.
I think we're, you know, like you were talking about earlier, you know, when we were talking about greatness, right? So, like, you know, who's to say this person isn't great just because maybe they ain't great at that thing, that sport, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. You know, I think we're all called, we all could be used in whatever lane that we're in to spread the word, right? And the impact, you're going to be able to impact certain people that maybe Jaryd wouldn't be able to touch or impact. Maybe some people would be more influenced by Jaryd than they would me. You know what I mean? And so everybody has their own lane that they could go into and impact somebody's life that otherwise wouldn't have connected with anybody else around them other than you. You know what I mean? And that's
right.
the impact that you guys are making on people in a
Yeah.
unique way that nobody else was going to touch those people maybe other than you.
Yeah.
For sure. Imagine walking into a church for the first time and Jaryd's up there. Right?
Like that
That's
ain't
not how you draw it up.
That ain't what I expected.
That's not how
Right.
you draw it up, right? That's
Right.
not the traditional
Right.
old white man with the nice robe on.
Yep.
You know, that's not how this goes.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's a
He's
different...
getting old, though. I
that's
got to get you a
different-
robe, dog. I got you. I'm picking up on what he's saying. We got to get him a robe.
Yeah, like,
Nah.
but the
tunic.
The reality of the situation is that you're spot on. Because Jaryd's going to touch people. He's going to find people. People are going to relate to him because they're going to look at Jaryd and they're going to say, that was me. But he did it.
Yeah.
Right.
He changed.
Right.
He brought it back around.
Right.
And he looks like me, and he talks like me, and he's from where I'm from.
No doubt.
He's gone through the things that I've gone through.
Yeah.
That's a different. It's a different feel. It's a new vibe. It's a new way to connect. It's a new real way to connect with these people.
Yeah.
Obviously, you talk about endurance, perseverance, grit, getting through things.
Mm-hmm.
You've been around for over 10 years with Premier. What's the vision that you have, for that 10 years from today?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you see?
So, I mean, in my time of prayer, man, the Lord really spoke to me. 10 years to have 7 facilities up and down the Eastern Seaboard. So I made my first move down to Fairmont. God opens a door, I go in that direction based off what he told me. So to have 7 of them, just
Fairmont
facilities.
where?
Fairmont, West Virginia.
Okay.
So I'm working
So that's
on
your second one?
that will be number 2.
Okay.
So I'm doing a partnership down there with somebody, but it's going to be a Premier. And I mean, you know what, bro? I don't even care if Premier's name's on it.
Yeah.
But I'm building it. You know what I'm saying? So that it makes an impact on people.
Yep.
So that's the vision. 10 years, over
Love it.
100,000 people impacted, at least over 100,000 people.
Love it.
7 facilities.
Love it.
Pittsburgh to Southwest Florida.
Love it. You hear both of you guys want to use your platform, boxing, your skills, your relationships to impact, right? That's what you're talking about. Right now, what you guys want to do at Highmark is, it's like, we want to put on the show, but we want to make an impact, on other people at the same time. What do you see, Hutch, for your way to make that impact, or, Pittsburgh boxing in general? What impact, what are you guys trying to do, 5 years out, 10 years out? What's the vision?
So the biggest thing for me, and me and Jaryd have talked about this at length, specifically to map out what this really looks like. And it's been my mission, and it's been my vision over and over again, to lead by example and not to just say it, not to just preach it, right? In my perfect world, you come to a Turf Wars event and you say, wow, I had a great time. You happen to realize that you didn't have any of the profanity. You happen to realize that you didn't have any of the vulgar things that you may expect from other combat sports series or events. You start to think, man, these guys, they look like they're having a good time. They're being successful. They're doing this. This guy's fighting for this championship. This guy's an up-and-coming prospect. What are they doing? What's the secret? What's behind the curtain? And you realize it's God.
Hey.
Right? Like, I want to show you first and lead by example, and then you figure out what it is, what that secret sauce is, right? I in my opinion, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with it, my biggest problem with some people's strategies as it relates to religion is that it's not effective, right? So we're always trying to do what's most effective and efficient. And in my opinion, it's not effective to just beat people over the head, when they come into the door with a Bible, right? Like, I don't want to be too over the top from that perspective, because it wouldn't relate to me. So I would be lying to the people. I would be lying to you if I allowed that kind of thing at the event, right? That's not what we're here for.
Right.
We're here to lead by example, show you that it can be positive, it can be good. Oh, and by the way,
You got questions? You want to look further? We'll help you
100%.
out. We'll let you know.
Being too forceful with that
Yes.
stuff isn't effective.
Yep.
Right? We're here. We're always available. Our hands are always outreached.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to grab you. You know what I mean? And I want to make that distinction with people. We are
I might.
open.
Hutch won't.
Jaryd will grab you.
I'm going to lay hands on you, and I ain't talking about boxing. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
That's right. That's
Amen.
right.
I think, Jaryd, we talked about that. You guys brought it up, the shirts. I remember seeing you in the shirts, of the Save Not Soft
Yeah.
shirts. I think that was a transition for me, growing up. Is like, man, I thought all the people that were like going to church were just soft. You know what I mean? I don't want any part of it.
Yeah.
So just understanding that you could still do that. You could still walk with God. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be soft. And the more you dig in, the more you realize Jesus was a dog.
Yeah, he was a straight,
Right, was
the
a
gangster
dog.
of his days. Everybody hated him.
Right?
Yeah.
No doubt. And so I've seen a lot of that, your ability to teach that, walk that, portray that. And I think that's again, things that'll be able to impact people.
Yeah.
When Hutch talks about, they see you and they probably not what they thought was going to be pastor in the church, but you're going to be able to relate and catch a whole, they say become fishermen of men.
Yeah,
You're going to
fishers
catch a
of
whole
men.
different,
That's right.
different group of people. And so what's the goal, you know, and speaking of catching a group of people, what's the goal for Turf Wars 2, right? This is 2?
Yeah.
Turf Wars 2 at Highmark Stadium. What's the goal for how many people do we want there?
Yeah. So in my spirit, I said it from the beginning was 4,000. So we're looking for 4,000 people to be out there, and it's doable. You know,
And what's
it's
the
very
date?
doable.
July 12th,
July
is it?
12th.
July
yep.
12th.
Highmark Stadium.
Okay.
City skyline in the background. There hasn't been boxing in a stadium with, like, there's never been a boxing event like this in Pittsburgh, period, ever. That's purpose driven, that has quality entertainment, and it's in a stadium with the Pittsburgh skyline in the background.
What do you mean quality entertainment?
Quality, like live entertainment, like quality entertainment where you can bring your family,
Yes.
your friends. That ain't
Yep.
a bunch of cussing. The ring girls, you know, I prefer that they're Amish and they wear, you know, stuff like that. They ain't gonna have on no bikinis, you know. That's what I mean. Quality entertainment, clean fun.
Yep.
People could come and they could drink and have a good time, and it ain't got to be you know, the energy is just gonna be different.
Yes.
It's gonna be a different type of energy.
Yep. What time's it start?
7 p.m.
How many amateur fights?
None.
All pro fights.
Yeah, all
all
pro
6
fights.
pro fights.
All 6.
Starts at 7
I had to
o'clock.
look at Hutch because he always got something up his sleeve. So I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
All right. I heard a little something that
Yeah.
we'll let that come out.
Yeah, we
but-
got a surprise coming.
so we got for sure six pro fights.
Yeah.
Starting at 7 o'clock. Doors open at what time?
6
Doors open at 6 o'clock. And this is outdoors?
Yeah.
outdoors.
Okay. All right. So
It's
what
going
if
to be
it rains?
fantastic
Oh, it's
weather.
not
We ain't
gonna
even
It's not
talking
gonna
about
rain.
it, right?
It ain't
Ain't gonna happen.
There is no plan B. It's
awesome.
plan
Yep.
A.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. And so how could other people get involved and show support in what you guys got going on right now? You know, I would first say, you know, we'll share with this. I want to share all the marketing reminders. People need reminders. We'll put
Yeah,
some
sure.
good marketing together
Appreciate
that
it,
they
bro.
could just share. You know, share the date, we'll have an ability for people to go get tickets.
Yep.
You guys still in the market? Is it too late to get sponsorships?
No,
No.
you could.
Okay.
Yes. On my side, the mission side, we're gonna have a mission impact section.
Okay.
Where the people who get the sponsorships for the mission impact section, a portion of those proceeds are going to go back to the 2 charities that we chose.
Okay.
Steel City Impact, 412 Ministries. So we have a ton of we got a ton of room left
Yep.
for that.
So what does 412 Ministries do?
So they are a sports ministry, and they're upfront about Jesus. Like, they know that they're teaching servant leadership, and it's mostly baseball, but they have I partner with
Love
them
it.
on a Bible study in my program, and they're doing major work. They're growing. They have professional Pirates players, like faith-driven leaders that were professional sports players coming in.
They
pouring
bounce
into the
around?
kid. Yeah, Beaver County.
Okay.
Beaver County and Allegheny County. Yep.
Love it. And so, you know, we know Steel City Impact. It's a youth program, after school
Yeah.
youth program,
In the school.
summer program, right
Yeah.
in Stowe
Stowe
Rocks.
Rocks, man.
Today
Amazing.
they went to the Mat Factory.
Yeah.
So we got them bouncing around. Summer program, you know, every week we take them somewhere else and try
Yeah,
to just
it's
get them
amazing,
different
man.
experiences.
So good.
You know,
That's
rock
so good to
climbing
do.
last week, horseback riding we did before.
Yeah.
You know, just taking them to see and do things that they wouldn't always do.
Yeah.
They golfed.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we appreciate. This year we're going to throw in a piece where our high school kids, we're going to start partnering with different jobs and career readiness places because the kids want to make money.
Yeah.
You know, they got to have an outlet to try to make
do
some
it the
money.
right way. Yeah,
the
you
right
gotta
way,
do
right? And so we're going to partner them with different companies and businesses that'll
great.
start to give them an outlet and a way to make money and to get some experience and stuff like that in Pittsburgh. So
That's awesome,
anybody
man.
listen, if you're looking to pick up some good hires,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to have some kids that need jobs that
Trained
we
up.
can impact
Yeah.
this year coming up. But
It's-
we so appreciate you, man. I know, you know, I didn't grow up here in Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh, you know, my mom was telling me the other day, she's like, man, you know, you're almost at the point where you've lived more of your life in Pittsburgh than you have in Youngstown.
Yeah.
And that was my whole thing of starting Steel City Impact, you know, years ago, was like, man, I felt when I left Youngstown and I came to Pittsburgh and had a little bit of success, I felt bad. You know, I had that guilt because nobody around me came from anything like that. And I
Yeah.
just like, you know, kind of disappeared. And I had to disappear because I had to disengage because not all of the things in my environment were positive. And so I'm like, man, I got to come home and do something. You know, I got to give back to where I came from. And then I started to feel the same guilt for Pittsburgh when I was putting so much time into Youngstown. You know, I'm like, man, you doing all this stuff over here, but all these people, this is where you made your business.
Yeah.
This is where everybody, this is where you really got
remember
made.
that. I
You know,
remember
is
that.
is over here, and so you got to do something in Pittsburgh. And so, you know, I've been here about 17 years now, and so it's become a home to me, second home to me. You know, a lot of the relationships I got with people that have impacted my life. My kids are born here, met my wife here. And so, you know, I could just tell you, you know, I'm just grateful for both of you guys for what you're doing here in the city. You know, we can't do it
Appreciate it,
all.
bro. No.
You know,
Yeah.
everybody got to do their own
That's right.
part. But I just, you know, would tell you thank you, you know, for what both of you guys are doing in the lanes that you're in right now to make a positive difference,
Yeah,
you know, in
appreciate you,
people
man.
in the city, man. So proud of you guys,
Yeah.
and I support both of you guys in any avenue, anything that I could do to help you guys, because you're helping so many different people. So those people out there that want to follow you guys, what would be the best place to follow or get in touch with you, Jaryd? And same thing with you, Hutch.
Yeah, the best place is probably social media. You could just go to Instagram, Facebook, Jaryd Boyer. Jaryd like the jewelry store, not the Subway guy.
Okay, spell it for him.
Jaryd
Okay,
Boyer.
all right. And so you're right now, a lot of the work you're doing is in Swickley. Is that right?
Yeah, so the facility's in Swickley.
Okay.
And I don't got a ring up. I got my eye on a facility that I'm trying to get in my box, like just my straight boxing program in there.
Yep.
But right now I got a nice facility where we got a softball field, we got a basketball court. I got a nice little bag set up going
Yep.
there where I could train some people. But we're growing. I got too many people coming for that little spot, so we're busting at the seams there. We got to get a bigger spot.
Beautiful.
But we're still doing the work
Yep.
every day.
And so Hutch, you know, I was just learning more about black belt development. You were telling
Yes,
me a
sir.
little bit about black belt development.
Yeah.
You probably would do a better job explaining it than I would. I'd do all right though. I was picking up
Absolutely.
what you were putting down.
Absolutely.
But you know,
Absolutely.
maybe tell us a little bit about it in case there's anybody out there that's looking
Yeah.
for some help.
No, I appreciate it. The Black Belt Development's been around for 3 years now, and we mainly focus in commercial construction. We will do some residential projects if they're cool or for somebody we know, but we live in the commercial space. We're everywhere from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, down to Southwest Florida, all up and down the East Coast. We have projects right now in Southwest Florida, in Naples, in Bonita Springs, in Fort Myers Beach. We got a ton of projects currently in downtown Pittsburgh. And so we are rapidly growing. I'm very excited about it. We are also getting into the solar space as well. We have a sister company, Built Solar. We're really doing a big push for commercial solar here in the Pittsburgh area. Allegheny County, Butler County, Washington County, we got major projects going in each one of those. And we're doing a lot of collaboration with small businesses. So if you're a small business owner out there and you own your own building, you definitely need to reach out. We can talk. We could really set you up with a nice program to help you in your growth. We have a licensed tax preparer, a full-time on-staff grant writer. We have a lot of things that we're doing right now to help our clientele.
So
and
the
partner with
grant
them.
writer would help you with transitioning into helping your business with solar.
Yeah, 100%.
Right, that would be the main goal?
So there's a ton of benefits right now in renewable energy as it relates to business owners, small business owners specifically. So there's a ton of
There's
SBA
grants people could get a hold of
There's
that they would
grants.
never know is even out
up
there.
to 50% of your project. So, you know, if you're looking at a $200,000 solar investment on your commercial building and you have 50% off, it's $100,000 that you're saving on that project. Now, remember, that's also 100% tax write-off as well.
On the other 100,000.
On the other 100,000. So a ton of amazing programs that we're doing to benefit people to get into renewable energy and to make sure that they're kind of putting their green thumbprint on the Pittsburgh area.
And when you say the development, you know, it's like plazas, office buildings,
Hotels, apartment buildings.
apartment building, condos.
A ton of these warehouse spaces that have flat roofs are absolutely prime candidates. So it's phenomenal, and a lot of people don't understand that, you know, they think of Florida or California for solar, but really it's the UV rays that are captured, not the actual sunlight. So
Right.
gray skies
Yeah, I've
don't
learned
matter
that.
to me.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
The worst cultivator.
You ain't gonna run out just because we're in Pittsburgh.
right.
Yeah. I asked that question
Yeah.
to somebody before. I'm like,
Yeah.
we don't get a lot of sun.
Yeah.
Like, nah, you're all right.
Yeah, it's true though. It's true. People don't realize that. And the snow is beneficial because it actually cools the panels down. It's not to be concerned about. You know what I mean? So
Right.
we're doing a lot of great things. The worst enemy of solar is shade, right? So you go into South Carolina and some of these other places we're going, we got to cut down trees to make sure that, you know, that's the shading isn't an issue. But especially here in Pittsburgh with some of these big buildings and the way that they're set back with the tree line, there's no issues at all.
Okay. And so Hutch is going to be the main event, right? You're going to be the
yes,
main
sir.
event July 12th, so people can come out. They can bring their families,
100%.
right? We're
Yeah.
going to make sure it's family friendly.
Family
Everybody
friendly.
can come out, bring as
Yep.
many people as possible to come support the city
Yeah.
of Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Come get behind two guys that are doing major things,
Yes, sir.
impacting a lot of people in a positive way.
Yep.
And Hutch, what would be a way that they could get a hold of you if somebody wanted to follow you
Yeah.
in your journey?
So on Instagram, it's official Bill Hutchinson. On Facebook, it's just Bill Hutchinson, HUTCHINSON. And anybody that's interested, you can check out blackbeltdevelops.com, hutchlawoffices.com, and you can see all the different things that we got going on right now. Turf Wars PGH, the Instagram, Turf Wars PGH, if you want to follow the show, if you want to follow the series and see all the cool stuff that we got going on.
Turf Wars PGH, we got.
Yeah.
1 week from today.
Yeah.
So let's get on it. Hopefully, we're looking forward to seeing as many of you out here in Pittsburgh, as many
4,000.
people as possible.
Yeah.
We're believing in 4,000.
That's right.
So we can make a difference, make an impact. It'll be a great time, great night out for everybody.
Yep.
Highmark Stadium, July 12th.
Tell your family, tell your friends. Get an Uber. If you don't got a ride, get a jitney, for crying out loud. Find
Yes.
somebody to get you a ride there.
Let's
I'll
go.
come and get you. Get there.
Come on, I believe you too.
For real, I
All right.
will.
Jaryd and Perm, they'll come scoop you
Yo,
up.
yeah,
together.
me and Perm, man,
Hey,
it'll be the best ride of your life.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of GRINDcast. Get ready, it's a new day.